welcome to the Wolfchase Toyota Insider, the Memphis Tiger Network. I'm Jeff Brightwell alongside Kevin Robinson and Coach back from Birmingham. And we're going to talk about some individuals here in a second, but overall, give us your thoughts on the meet.
Well, it was a pretty good experience for us. There were well over 1,000 athletes in the meet, so we had huge field sizes, 4 and 5 flights in the field events and up to 20, 21 heats and some of the sprint races and stuff. So there was a lot of standing and waiting and being pushed around and herded. But I felt like the team did a good job dealing with some adversity from a standpoint of there being way too many people on the track. And we had one guy ended up with stitches in his leg from getting spiked in a 800-meter race in which 12 athletes started the race and 4 finished. So it was a very physical race on the track. But, I thought we did a pretty good job. And, it's a phenomenal facility. And if you can get out in the open and run your race, which we had a few of them do, actually put up some really good times. And some of the others were pretty beat up, and they looked like they'd, played in a double overtime football game the night before. So kind of a mixed bag.
Well, one of your players that may be one of the reasons he did so well, Joe Craig, of course, plays football for the Tigers, has to run competitively in a little bit, but has run a little bit for you now, and he got in the 60 meters, and boy, he really showed up big for you.
Yeah, I tell you what, Joe he's got some great speed. He's a little rusty coming out of the blocks, and he's got some nerves and some things going on because he hasn't raced in a while, but he's a very, very good athlete, and you take a great athlete and you put him on the track, and it won't take long before he gets his wheels back and he gets his rhythm back, and he gets some of the bugs worked out in his start. And Joe's a guy that can really, really help our program, and it's just good to have him on board.
How did this? We see this with different sports. It's not unusual for track to have an athlete from another sport, and we see it in other sports as well, come over and go, hey, I did this in high school, I've done this before, I'd like to give it a shot on the college level. And I'm sure sometimes it's got to be a situation where you kind of roll your eyes. All right, well, that was great. You did that in high school. This is NCAA. But I'm sure seeing Joe a couple times on the football field, you knew he had some speed. He was a great athlete.
Yeah, I mean, Joe had a very, very good high school career in track and field, and he actually got a chance to run a few races as a freshman in college. And he's been away from the sport for a little while, but he's got talent that it wasn't cultivated. He was born with it. He's a phenomenal speed sprint athlete, and if we can kind of manage that ability a little bit and clean up a few of the rough edges, I mean, he's an All-American type athlete on the track, and there are a lot of guys like that. You see a lot of schools that their 4x1 is all football guys. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of all-pro NFL athletes right now that have a background in track and field. So a lot of times it works very well together. Sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on the situation. But right now we're just glad to have Joe on board, and hopefully can keep it going.
One of your females, another so we talk about her a lot, Maya Williamson, and another outstanding 800.
Maya's doing a great job. I keep reminding people that Maya is a 400-meter hurdler. For her, the 800 is a race that we use to get her fit and in shape to run the hurdles outdoor. So Maya doesn't do anything halfway. So her 800 has gotten better progressively every year. She's now the school record holder. She's poised to earn a trip to the NCAA Indoor Championship. She's got the fastest time in the conference. She's a phenomenal person. And when we get outside and we start running the hurdles, all the strength work we've done in the 8 indoor this year is going to really pay off, and she's going to have a phenomenal season as long as we can keep her healthy.
That's great that she's so good at, I guess, like you mentioned, her secondary event. And for those that don't know, I mean, we throw out meters here and meters there, and it might not compute for the weekend warrior that's out running in a track on a weekend. That's 2 laps around the track. That's basically a half mile. That is a rough race. A 400, which is basically 1 lap. And I'm not sure what it is indoor, depending on how many meters the indoor track is. You do your 1 lap, you're an all-out sprint, but it's not a mile where you kind of pull back and pace yourself. It's a rough little sprint there.
Well, I tell you what, every event on the track is extremely challenging. You don't see many 400-meter athletes that coast up through the finish line and talk about how easy the race was. The 8 it's a hybrid, kind of like you mentioned, of sprint and tactics and middle distance. So it's tough. It's tough, and some of the lactate issues that those athletes experience post race it's tough. So the great ones make it look easy. They cross the line, they look like they're not breathing hard and like they're just out for a stroll. But when you get on the track and you do it yourself, you're like, man, that's a different world. It's nasty.
Coach, you're going to turn around. You're going to go up to a familiar area because you lived. You were raised about a half hour north of Cape Girardeau from Perryville, but you'll go up to SEMO and get into their meet, and you go up there quite often with the Tigers. This is going to be more of a sprinter, throwers type of event for you.
Yeah, what we do, we use this meet. I mean, it's only basically 6 days away from our championship, so use it as a field event tune-up, a final opportunity for our field eventers to clean up some things. We're starting to peak a little bit athletically, so they should be starting to feel really good. And this gives them an opportunity to put some marks out there and get in a better heat, better flight for the championship. We usually do a pretty good job at this meet. It's a great atmosphere because it's just a couple of schools. It's the polar opposite of what we did last weekend. Last weekend we're herded around like cattle. There's 1,000 people on the track at one time. This week, it's for the athletes. They're very, very small field sizes. The whole event is set up for the athletes to perform at a very high level. And it's perfect for us because we can go tune up, work on some things, and hopefully polish it off and be ready to compete at the highest level next weekend.
Coach, sounds good. As always, we appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And it's Kevin Robinson. I'm Jeff Brightwell for the Wolfchase Toyota Insider on the Memphis Tiger Network.